All right, it says I'm live. So here it is. I am live. And this evening, unbeknownst to me, because I really had no intention of making a video today, but I did want to talk about the mutations that I'm hearing about. Now, I got these from reliable sources, or at least what I would believe to be reliable sources, is that the virus is mutating or does mutate. No different than the flu, no different at all. It just mutates. But it's kind of my thought, as I discussed last night, that if you have a bioweapon, okay, and it's just the flu, that's all it is. It's just the flu. The same amount of people will die from it as the flu. It's not really a bioweapon. It's just the flu. Now, if it mutates and then mutates into something stronger through each wave, then it's a bioweapon. So I wanted to talk about these mutations, and I got some word coming in on it that's being emailed to me from a person who is also as well referenceable. But I wanted to talk about the mutations because I think that that's where the danger would come into play. If it mutates into a stronger form of, and then starts killing more and more people with each wave, that's where it becomes something of more of a hazard. Now, I'm not here trying to spread like a doom and gloom or be a doomsday sayer or anything like that. But I like people to be on top of this information. And if I have information, I want others to have it, especially if I feel it's something that should be passed along. So that's what I will be talking about. Now, right now, from my understanding, no one under the age of 10 who has contracted this virus has died. It doesn't really so much hurt young people. It's the older people. In fact, I think, forget which doctor it was that said it, but it said like something like 1 or 2% of people in their 50s die. And then it doubles each time it goes up. So people in their 60s, 4% would die. You know, the 70s, 8%. The 80s, 16%. Is that any different than the flu? I mean, does anybody know the overall statistics of who dies during the flu and, you know, what those numbers are? Because I don't know. It just seems to me that it's the flu, and the only person or the only thing that's making a big deal of it is really the media. They are shutting down the NBA, travel, you know, everything's being shut down. And yesterday, the president declared a national emergency. Suspended travel to the UK, Ireland, I mean, all of it, and is even thinking about like, you know, restrictions here in the US on travel. So that, you know, that's kind of like what I'm looking at. Why are they making such a big deal about a flu virus? You know, what's the big deal? However, with the flu, they don't swap ER. I'm not sure what that means there, B. Smith. Well, right. You know, and I agree. I think that that is exactly kind of what I'm getting at, is that more people may die from the flu than what they do the corona. And if that is the case, and now again, we don't know that, or at least I couldn't make a determination on that because everybody doesn't have the corona. It's not that when the flu goes around, everybody gets the flu anyway. But at the same time, I think that as the overall goes, if you had the bad flu, you know, probably the same percent may die from it. Just a thought. I don't know of anybody that ever died from the flu, but I do know people who have died of complications from the flu because they, you know, their immune system was lowered because of other things that they had. That I know. But I think the same applies to corona, as does the flu. All right, let me get over here real quick so I can throw the number up because I am in hope of a call here in a little bit. And that is the number if you want to call in the meantime. But yeah, you know what? And that is what they were saying would happen. And they're saying that it can stay on things for 9 days. Now, the one thing that really damages the corona is heat, is warmth. And they say, you know, keep your house warm, you know, keep it humid. spray things, alcohol, wipe things down to where they're wet, not just like, quick spray or rub with some shit. Won't kill it all. 15 people in Indiana have it. Well, now you see, yesterday when I was looking at Fox News, they said that 12 people had it. But I don't think that it would double daily. I think that there's so many days between it actually just being like where people have it. Oh, shit. To where like everybody has it. But again, it makes me wonder because I got to go check my mail. And when I go check my mail, I'm thinking like, okay, this lady that I don't know, that is the mail lady, I don't know where she's been. I don't know what she's touched. I don't know if she's got it, if she's just putting it in everybody's mailbox or not. I don't know. So I'm hoping that that is not the case. Hang on a second. Let me go check my email here real quick. I want to pull that up because that as well speaks on the mutations. 5 ways to stop corona. The 5. That's what Google's telling me. Hey, look, limited or no ads on your Stace video. Huh. I'll be screwed blue. I didn't see that coming. This is probably because I called it the Wuhan. The Wuhan virus. Holy crap, I got some emails. Okay. How fast can the coronavirus mutate? Well, let's take a look. Now, this is from Live Science. In fact, I'm going to share my screen here so that you all can see what it is that I am reading as well. In case you'd like to read along, or I don't know, maybe you think I'm just lying to you or something, which, could. It's hard to say. Okay, so this is what I'm looking at here. It says the new coronavirus, like all other viruses, mutate and undergo small changes in its genome. Yep, seen that coming a long time back now. The new coronavirus, like all other viruses, mutates or undergoes small changes in its genome. A recently published study suggested that the new coronavirus, SARS and CoV-2, had already mutated into one more or less aggressive strain, but experts aren't convinced. In the study, a group of researchers in China analyzed the genomes of the coronavirus taken from 103 patients with COVID-19, the disease caused by SARS-CoV-2 in Wuhan, China, the epicenter of the outbreak. The team found differences in the genomes, which they said could be categorized into 2 strains of the coronavirus, the L type and the S type. The researchers wrote in this study, which was published Tuesday, March 3rd in the journal. Hold on, I need to scroll down here. Oh, cute bear, though. The researchers found that the L type, which they deemed the more aggressive type in 70% of virus samples. They also found that the prevalence of this strain decreased after early January. The more commonly found type is the older S type because human interventions such as quarantines may have reduced the ability of the L type to spread, researchers wrote in the paper. However, Nathan Grubal, an epidemiologist at Yale School of Public Health, who was not part of this study, said the author's conclusions are pure speculation. For one thing, he said the mutations the study authors referenced were incredibly small, on the order of a couple nucleotides in the basic building blocks of the genes, he said. Speaking of the same thing, 30,000 nucleotides long is the virus. These slight changes likely wouldn't have a major impact, if any at all, on the functioning of the virus. So it would be inaccurate to say that these differences mean there are different strains, he said. In addition, the researchers looked at only 103 cases. It's a very small sample set of the total virus population. Hold again, I want to stop right there. And this is what I'm getting at. Only a handful of people have this. If 12 people in Indiana had the flu, if you see where I'm at, and none died, I mean, would it say it's 100% accurate that nobody would die? No. But if you look at the overall, and according to age, that's where the statistics start to mean something. All right, see, where in the hell was I? Population. Figuring out the mutation that a virus underwent worldwide takes a non-trivial amount of effort and sometimes takes years to complete. Years? My God, in years it would mutate. I mean, that sounds a little stupid, Grooveball. I don't know if anybody ever told you that, but it's not something a scientist would really say. Anyway, other scientists agree. The findings that the coronavirus mutates into two strains, which with the L leading to the more serious disease, is most likely a statistical artifact. Richard Nayer, a biologist and physicist at the University of Basel in Switzerland, wrote on Twitter, the statistical effect is probably due to early sampling of the L group in Wuhan, resulting in a higher apparent case fatality rates, he wrote. When there's a rapidly growing local outbreak, scientists quickly sample the virus genomes from patients, resulting in the overrepresentation of some variants of the virus. Nahar wrote, the authors of the paper acknowledge that the data in this study is still very limited, and they need to follow up with larger data sets to better understand how the virus is evolving, they wrote. Okay, it just says we shouldn't worry. Okay. Knowing that such papers would come out during this outbreak, Grubal published a commentary in the journal National Microbiology on February 18th with the title, We Shouldn't Worry When a Virus Mutates During Disease Outbreaks. Well, that's pretty freaking timely there, Mr. Nayer. You know, it really is, but, you know, whatever. The word mutation naturally conjures fear of unexpected and freakish changes, he wrote. And that's exactly what I'm alluding to here. In reality, mutations are a natural part of the virus life cycle. Exactly. Now, and again, it does not take years to see that. To be quite honest, look, man, the flu mutates every year. That's why you can recatch it. That's why if you've had the flu, you can still get the flu. Well, I believe that the same would be, would be the same for corona. Even if you got corona and it mutated, you could still then catch the mutated part of corona. That's what could make it a biological weapon. That's what I'm kind of getting at here. The word mutation, in reality, mutations are a natural part of the virus life cycle and rarely impact outbreaks dramatically. RNA viruses are those that have RNA as their main genetic material instead of DNA, including SARS-CoV-2. Mutate constantly and do not have the mechanisms to fix these mistakes as human cells do, for example. But most of these mutations negatively affect the virus. If mutations are not beneficial to the virus, they are typically eliminated through natural selection, the mechanism of evolution whereby organisms better adapt to their environment tend to survive. Other mutations survive and get embedded into the average genome of the virus. Need to scroll. Typically, multiple gene codes for traits such as a virus's severity or ability to transmit to other people, Grubal wrote. So for a virus to become more severe or transmit more easily, multiple genes would have to mutate. Despite high rates of mutation among viruses in general, it's unusual to find viruses that change their mode of transmission between humans over such short time scales, he wrote. So what does all this mean for the development of a possible vaccine? These viruses are still genetically similar to these mutations, that these mutations shouldn't alter a new vaccine. Grubal said, it's unlikely that the developers have to worry about this. Once the vaccine is out, however, the virus could adapt to it and develop resistance, he said. But considering the other RNA viruses, such as those that cause measles, mumps, and yellow fever, didn't develop resistance to vaccines, that scenario is unlikely. In fact, God, this is a rather long article. In fact, these mutations help scientists trace the steps of the virus, Grubal said. For example, a group of researchers in Brazil recently isolated SARS-CoV-2 from 2 patients confirmed to have COVID-19 and sequenced the complete genomes of both samples of the virus. They found that not only did the genomes differ from each other, but they were also very different from the genomes of the virus sample sequence in Wuhan, China. The researchers wrote in a report that wasn't peer-reviewed, but published on a forum on February 28th. The coronavirus taken from one patient in Brazil had a genome similar to that of a virus sequence in Germany, and the virus from the second patient resembled that of the coronavirus in the United Kingdom. That means that these two patients are linked to cases in Europe, but not to each other, Grubal said. Man, Grubal just keeps talking too. How it works was okay. You know what, man? Maybe that was the end of that. It is. Okay. So that is the first one there. Let me get back to my inbox. This is a second page. You know what? I'm going to get copyright hit for all this crap. Not that it matters. I mean, I'm just reading. I mean, a man can read, man. I got freedom to read. I'm pretty sure the Constitution gave me that. You know, the common law gives me that. The right to read to people. I do it to Wolf all the time. The novel coronavirus that has infected thousands of people across the world may have mutated at least once, meaning that there may be two different types of the virus causing illness. Scientists with Peking University School of Life Sciences and the Institute of Shanghai in a preliminary study found that one strain, type L, of the virus was more aggressive and accounted for about 70% of the strains analyzed. The second, type S, was less aggressive and accounted for about 30% of analyzed strains. Initially, type L was more prevalent during the early stages of the outbreak in Wuhan. The Chinese public in Hubei, I don't know, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, province at the center of the outbreak. But this strain decreased after early January 2020. Human intervention may have placed more severe selective pressure on the L type, which might be more aggressive and spread more quickly. On the other hand, the S type, which is evolutionary older and less aggressive, might have increased in relative frequency due to relatively weaker selective pressure, they noted. The researchers found that the second strain was likely caused by a mutation of the ancestral version, or the type S in this case. Although the L type, 70%, is more prevalent than the S type, 30%, the S type was found to be the ancestral version. These findings strongly support an urgent need for further immediate comprehensive studies that combine genetic data, epidemiological data, and chart records for the clinical symptoms of patients with corona disease 2019 COVID-19. The researchers concluded, cautioning that the data available for this study was very limited. Okay. So saying that there are two types, the S type and the L type. 47 comments. Holy shit. Man, okay, I missed every one of those comments, and I'm sorry, but I was reading. You must understand. Oh, yeah, man. If you was in Vegas, you know what? It's probably bad luck all the way around, not even including the coronavirus. But believe me, I lived there, and you know what I walked away with? Alcoholism. There it is. Puppies potty in record time. Maybe, you know what? Maybe they're scared of the L type. You know. So anyway, that is what we're looking at, is that they say that there's two. Now, if there are two, and I think that it would be the S type, I think it would be the less aggressive one that we are having here in the United States, because I'm not seeing everybody getting sick, dying. I'm not even seeing people with flu symptoms. So I don't think that it's anything that big. Now, again, it really goes back to, how did they manufacture this? Because if they manufactured this and somebody's got a patent on it, well, believe me, if it's a bioweapon, it's going to mutate. And when it mutates, and believe me, these people that got the patent and all these people you think represent you, they already got a vaccine for it. You know, that ain't the shit they're going to sell you later after people die. You know, they ain't about that, man. They want to, like, you know, test you and go, yeah, you got it. We got to quarantine you and put you away from people. And I mean, look, I mean, again, not trying to spread fear or anything, but I've heard people say, and that's when people don't see you again, you know. Well, yeah, but I mean the same goes with a cold. The same goes with the flu. I mean the same goes with all your different viruses. They all mutate. That's why you get them each year. You know, that's why you get the cold this year. Next year you get the cold. You know, you will get the cold. Same with the flu. Now I've only had the flu a couple times. I mean, where I knew this wasn't no cold, man, because I was like far and away sicker than just a cold. Yeah, yeah, right, right. See, yeah, everything's closing, man. Everything is closing down. And it makes me wonder if it's just the flu, why? Why are they treating it like this? Why are they treating it like it's something completely different than the flu when it is, to my knowledge, from what I'm reading statistically about the people that die from it, is the same as the flu? Pretty much just a different version of the flu. Now, if they know that it's set to mutate and get worse and worse and worse as it goes along, then that makes it something a little different. That makes it something completely different. And that is a bioweapon. And if they know it's a bioweapon and it's to call a part of society, then well played. Well played by them. Yeah. You know what? A lot of schools around here in Indiana are also being stopped as well. What? Oh, no, 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 no. Only go if it's still Sin City. Man, that was the joy of being in Vegas. Don't you understand? That's where you could go have fun. You know what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, man? They say that shit for a reason. If it ain't like that, man, don't go waste your money, man. It's all rigged game. I mean, it's all played against you, man. You're not going to go there and walk out a millionaire, man. It ain't like you go to Vegas and hit the lottery. I'll guarantee you money on that. But man, there was some good times back in the 80s, man. I'm just throwing that out there. It was actually a lot of fun for at least a while, you know. Oh yeah, man. Well, if you don't gamble, don't even go. Yeah, just just stay at home. I mean, unless you're going to catch a show. Actually, man, they had a great man. What was the name of that club? Catch a Rising Star. I think it was Catch a Rising Star, man. Comedy Club. That was really good. I enjoyed that. Yeah, who didn't love the 80s, man? The 80s were great. I miss the 80s. So, anyway, I just wanted to pass along because I didn't really want to make a video today. In fact, I'm not dressed for a video. But I did want to get this out because it is the weekend. It is Saturday. And I was sitting here just talking to Wolf, and I'm like, you know what? Yeah, maybe I should kind of just get on here and tell people real quick. And again, I don't think that people are going without coronavirus news because I think that most people are looking into it, to the best that we can, because there is a lot of information out there, a whole lot of information. Some of it good, some of it bad, but most of it just says, calm the fuck out, man, and maintain, you'll be all right. Yeah, but Sylvia Brown is like, I don't even know how to say it without just sounding very harsh. I'll just say crap. It's like all psychics. Blah, 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 blah. Oh, she predicted it. Well, you know what? I could say 50 things right now, man. And like over time, those things are going to happen. I'm going to go, see, I'm a psychic, man. Remember when I predicted that shit? There it is. Yeah, man. Cat, not only a detective, but a psychic. And seriously, I mean, from the way I understand it, Sylvia Brown had took that right from Dean Koontz book with the Wuhan 400 and basically copied what he had said. Now, why she would do that and then called herself psychic, because believe me, there is no such thing as a psychic. There's as many psychics right here in this world as there are like ghosts, Bigfoot, the Loch Ness Monster. If you believe in that shit, there's other channels, man. There's other places to go. And I don't really talk about that shit here. Believe me, I don't believe in psychics or predictions. Predictions, whatever, man. Yeah, well, exactly. And thank you for that. you know what? There's a whole lot to that, and it's just a way to make money. When she was on was Montel Williams' show, it was a place where she could stand and give her, oh yeah, yeah, his name starts with an R, isn't it an R? I'm thinking, yeah, R. Ron? Yeah, maybe Ron. You mean like my husband, Ron? That may be. He's still alive. You know, all kinds of shit, man. But for the most part, I mean, could she just sit down and tell? Hang on a minute. Phone's ringing. Hello.
Hey, Michael.
Oh, hey, it's Miss Cavalier, everyone. Hello. How are you? How are you doing this evening?
You know, you might want to check out the last email that I sent you for a minute.
Okay. Hold on.
Alaska, and I'm not talking Alaska Blue.
Okay.
Alaska is celebrating, I think, the 102nd running, or 102nd anniversary of the Iditarod race. And that is to commemorate one of the greatest humanitarian efforts that I have ever seen in the early 1900s.
What was that?
And what happened was, now I'm going from memory,
right?
So forgive me if I get some details wrong. There was a freighter, cargo freighter, that docked in Nome. I think it was in 1918. No, I could be off on that. And they brought with them the Spanish flu virus. And the town started to get very ill. And there were several hundred people up there. And that, the Iditarod race is about 1,000 miles long.
Yeah.
And I think the actual dog sled teams, plural, went about 1,250, 1,300 miles from Seward once they got the medicine that they needed to treat these people. I do know at the time that there was one single doctor in that town, and he had a pandemic of his own. And they didn't have telephones. I believe the way they communicated the trouble that they were in when this flu started to really blossom was by telegraph, but I'm not certain of that.
Nope. Well,
anyway, go ahead.
No. Go on. I just highlighted a comment I want to get back to. Go on. I was going to read the paper here in just a minute.
If I remember right, there was a tag team of dog sled teams that started out from Seward, and they headed north. There was no trail cut. The snow was deep. The dogs were fast. And I can't remember right off the top of my head how many days it took to get there. But there is in the United States Capitol a statue commemorating a dog named Balto. And he was the lead dog for most of that trip to Nome. And if you guys, it's hard to conceptualize how long it took to get those dogs through the mountains, through the snow, over ice, over water, and into Nome. But when those people knew that they were coming in, because news traveled fast in some of the villages between Anchorage and Nome. And they knew that they were coming. They were holding out until the medication got there. And it's a great story, principally because people pulled together and they did things that were miraculous. These dogs had no sense of direction. They headed north and they headed west. and they found Nome, but the trip was harrowing. It was extremely cold. These guys didn't have the equipment we have now to run those races, but they got there, and they saved the entire community. There were deaths, yes, but if you wanted to read that, it's kind of a comparison to what we're facing now, because the Spanish flu was deadly.
Yeah, exactly.
Kept their wits about them. They knew what they had to do. They knew how to get there, and they did it. And this was a tremendous feat. I mean, Congress got involved in it, and the money was there to get those dogs to Nome that were carrying the medicine that they needed.
What was the medicine?
My point is, do what you have to do.
Yeah.
Don't be scared of it. Just do it. Get her done.
Yes.
And that is probably one of the biggest monuments to human nature in the last 100 years that I know of. They had to get it there. The fastest way was dog teams. They did it.
Well, you know, I am kind of wondering, like, what kind of medication they had in 1918.
You know, take a look at that article. It explains. Hold on.
Let me pull this up here, and
I wasn't prepared to give all the details, or I would have.
Okay, let me read this here.
But to this day, I mean, I did a dog sled race, just started again a few days ago, and mushers from all over the world come and run that race.
Oh, this is a book. Yeah, this is pretty long here.
Well, maybe you can just read the first couple paragraphs.
Well, yeah.
Probably.
I'll read through so that people get the idea of what it was that they had and so forth. Let me begin. And some of these words I will not be able to pronounce. Don't even.
Yeah, just pass over the native.
Well, I'll give it my best shot. Okay, it says 100 years ago, the flu pandemic ravaged regional communities. The dedication of the Sidnasumit on October 1st, and I'm not sure if that's a guy's name. It has to be, right? I would think. On October 1st is linked to one of the darkest chapters in the history of Nome and the Seward Peninsula. The memorial honors the local name, the Sidnasumit, who perished in the 1918 influenza pandemic, a terror which claimed more lives worldwide than any other disease in human history. Is that true? It killed more people than the bubonic plague? Because I was not thinking so. I mean, maybe viral, but the Dark Death, I mean, that was bacterial infection. If I'm
going to have to look because I don't know the numbers on either one.
Well, it was because you had to get that by a flea bite. I mean, it wasn't passed by like touch or cough or anything like that. I mean, it had to be placed into your body. Anyway, let me continue here. Let's see. More than 175 people, most of them native, lie in a mass grave on the West Beach hillside. The entire Seward Peninsula was devastated by the deadly virus. On October 20, 1918, the ship Victoria arrived at the port of Nome from Seattle. The Spanish flu was already raging in Seattle, so before embarking, every passenger and crew member of the Victoria was examined by two physicians operating independently of each other. Anybody showing signs of sickness was denied passage. On the trip north, there was no flu, no illness of any kind. All who went ashore in Nome were quarantined in a hospital for 5 days. But within a few days, the disease appeared, and by November 1st, it had reached Nome's native village. Few escaped. In 8 days, 162 native people were dead. Of more than 300 whites who caught the flu, 25 died. One of the first victims was Walter Shields, Alaskan Superintendent of Education. His relationship to the native villages as head of teachers meant his loss was a blow to efforts to organize the defense against the plague. Daniel S. Newman, Nome's only physician, was felled by the flu, caught pneumonia, and was incapacitated at Fort Davis. Dr. Burson remained as the only physician, but he had 75 patients out of 85 soldiers at the fort to look after. At first, the isolation of Alaska protected the people from the epidemic. But once it hit, the disease was more devastating than any place else in America. Because of the climate, pneumonia and other respiratory ailments were common and deadly. When freezed up arrived, Nome was isolated and left to fight the flu without assistance. Many of those who were important to the fight against the disease died in the first days. The smaller villages to the north of Nome suffered terribly. In Teller, only 80 of the village's 150 residents survived. In Wales, there had been no warning. A boy from York just down the trail had died and was brought to Wales for burial. Soon his father was sick and the epidemic began. Every last person in York perished. Every epidemic exploded in Wales, and in a few days, all but a few were infected. One family kept away from another and escaped the disease. The toll in Wales was 170 dead, including 5 babies born during the epidemic. This was out of the total of 310 people. Half the people in Bervig Mission died, 65 to 70% of the population in and around Mary's Igloo. Shishmaref officials... Shishmaref, thank you. Officials prevented the virus from reaching the village and spreading northward by establishing a rigid quarantine and posting guards day and night 8 miles down the coast toward Wales. Shishmaref leaders were forewarned by a messenger from Deering who brought news that Shields had died of the flu in Nome and that many others were dying in villages, including neighboring Wales. Similar action was taken in Shartulik by Stephen Ivanov, town council chairman, who appointed 2 guards for wages of 4 reindeer each month and stopped all visiting within the village. Children were prevented from playing in large groups. The penalty for breaking any of these regulations was to furnish the town with a half to 2 cords of woods, sawed, split, and piled. Dr. William Ramsey, a physician who resided at council, and his assistant, White Mountain. Is that in somebody's name? Oh, no, it's at White Mountain. My bad. Okay. Maintain strict quarantine regulations in each village. In both villages, the efforts paid off as nobody caught the deadly flu. By the time 1918 flu virus burned out on the Seward Peninsula, it had claimed 750 lives, the majority of them Alaska Native. Hundreds of children were left orphaned thanks to their isolation. Diomede, King Island, Diomede, thank you. There it is. Okay, Diomede, King Island, the Probolofs, and St. Lawrence Islands were spared. The flu did not touch them. Worldwide, an estimated 50 million people perished from the virus. That's a lot of people. But again, man, I'm thinking that the Black Death, man, claimed more than that. I think it was, I forget how many millions, but I think it exceeded that, but I will look into it. In India alone, 20 million people died. The total for the United States exceeded 550,000. The strain of flu was unusual in that the mortality was so high. It concentrated on the unusually young group, but not so lethal to young children. Unusually young age group. It concentrated on an unusually young age group, but not so lethal to young children. Okay, I don't get that. Why are they talking maybe 20s or something? Anyway, questions about the Spanish influence, a dog scientist. Why was it so deadly, so explosive? Other flu epidemics had similar characteristics, but none had so thoroughly devastated a population, traveled so rapidly, nor targeted primarily those in the prime of their life. In 1951, a Swedish medical student studying microbiology at the University of Iowa heard a virologist suggest that the key to understanding the long gone flu strain might be found in the frozen remains of flu victims buried in Alaska's permafrost. You know what? That might have been where that they got it back from, was right there. After doing some preliminary research, Johan Halton, the Swede, traveled to Brevig Mission, which had been ravaged by the pandemic in 1918. Halton sought permission from the village elders that they granted him access to the remains. After 2 days of laboriously removing layer after layer of frozen soil, he reached the first body. He removed lung tissue and returned to the lab in Iowa City. Despite their best efforts, he and his colleagues were unable to isolate the virus, and learn anything about it. Let me see. 46 years later, Halton, now a retired pathologist living in San Francisco, read an article in the Scientific Journal about a molecular pathologist looking for samples of the flu virus to supplement 2 samples he had taken from soldiers who died of the flu in 1918. Dr. Jeffrey Tabenberger was chief of the viral pathogenesis and evolution section laboratory of infectious diseases, National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases. I thought I just read that. National Institute of Health. Halton contacted him, told him of the history of the flu virus, and volunteered to travel to Brevig Mission and try once more. This time they were successful in getting lung tissue which contained the DNA of the virus. There it is. After 8 years of work, Dr. Tannenberger and his colleagues were able to reconstruct and map the structure of the virus. From it, they learned that it had originated in birds and mutated to infect humans. So it's an avian flu, or the 1918 one was. In a sense, the new knowledge is the ultimate frustration. Scientists have captured the mass murderer, the 1918 flu virus, but they still do not know its murder weapon. We definitely have the right suspect, but we do not yet know how the murder was committed, Jeffrey Tannenberger said. This story was written for information found in several excellent sources. They include America's Forgotten Pandemic, the Influenza of 1918 by Alfred W. Crosby, University of Texas, Austin, second edition, Flu, the Story of the Great Influenza Pandemic of 1918 by Gina Collada, Villagers' Remains led to the 1918 flu breakthrough by Ned Rosell, Geophysical Institute, University of Alaska Fairbanks, The Great Influenza by John M. Barry, and articles by Laura McNicholas in the Gnome Nugget, August 3rd, 2000. Well, there that is. Okay, that's from the Gnome Nugget. Thank you for sending that.
Well, and my point is, there are a lot of from birds, and they're suspecting that the coronavirus came from that little anteater from Kuala Lumpur. There's still a lot of similar characteristics. It went fast, it was deadly, and the medicine had to get to Nome, and they got it there. And people made big sacrifices. When you quarantine a village, that means that they can't go in or out to get their food. And these people live truly off the land.
Yeah.
I've eaten seal ice cream and fish head soup and a lot of other native delicacies / food that's very unattractive to us, but that's their mainstay. And it killed darn near 1,000 people, from what I understand. Now, I think you said 750. A lot of these villages are only 30 or 40 people in population. So it was very devastating to that area. And again, my point is, let's do what we need to do. Let's get through it and come out the other side just fine. No panic.
Right, and I agree. I don't think that people should panic, but if there is a second or third wave, I think that that's going to be hard to do with summer coming on. You know, with spring here. I mean, as the days warm up, it's really going to help more than anything else kind of eliminate the virus from society, as it doesn't really stay on things when it's warm. I mean, and I think that different viruses have different things, like as far as temperature like that. You know, some of them can't live like outside the human body. I mean, say for an example, AIDS. Because it would get cold, and anything under like the human body temperature or too much of that will kill it. Well, flu's kind of the opposite, where it takes warmth to kill it and it takes colder to actually keep it. Kind of odd, but there you go with viruses.
Exactly. And instead of buying things like toilet paper, buy over-the-counter flu medications and make sure you have those in your house. And everything that we talked about yesterday. I mean, lots of fluids, chicken soup, you know, try a new recipe. Bring out an old one. Because
you know what?
It always helped. I think there's something medicinal in chicken soup. My great-grandma used to have it every time somebody came down with a cold, and it seems like we didn't suffer for very long. You know, a couple days and it was gone.
You know, I think that there is...
Go ahead.
Go on.
People have to just remember that there's a lot of old mainstays, and I don't think the newer millennials, you know, maybe they'll just buy a can of chicken noodle soup from Campbell's.
Yeah.
Who knows? But and there are better soups out there, trust me.
Believe me.
But tomato soup, for instance.
Don't even go there, man. That's just like holy water on me. I mean, I hate that, man. That was my aunt who recently passed away. She made me eat that when I was little, and I would gag on every spoonful. And she would tell me, you will eat every drop of it or you will stand your ass in the corner for the rest of the day. She was not cool about not eating tomato soup. So to this day, even the smell of it makes me gag. And I did try it. When I was in Vegas, my old lady told me, she goes, well, you like tomatoes, right? Yeah. Well, maybe you should retry tomato soup. You know, you was young. And I'm like, you know what? You make a great point. She bought some tomato soup. I stuck a spoonful of it in my mouth and almost vomited. It was just as nasty as what I remember.
Tomato soup?
Have I ever had what?
Homemade tomato soup?
No, but I would guarantee it would be good. I mean, I could see where that would be really good. Campbell's, that's what I had to eat. And it's just so crappy. It's like canned corn, canned beans. It smells or tastes nothing like corn or beans. They cannot boil the flavor out of stuff, people. And if they do, it probably ain't got shit for nutrition in it. Just throwing that out there to you.
That's it. Because the tomato soup that I've always had, you know, that the recipe is like a super secret, long-term, tried and tested tomato soup. It doesn't look like tomato soup, and it doesn't have that canned processed flavor.
Yeah.
And that's awful.
Yeah, and that's the part that I didn't like. I'm just not a Campbell soup person. I love homemade soup. It's just like green beans, man. If you eat them out of a can, they taste like canned green beans. But if you eat them when they're fresh and cooked, that tastes and smells just like a green bean, and it tastes fantastic to me. But whenever they can some, it's like everything's cooked out of it. It's like what's left over after everything's taken out of the bean, including flavor, nutrition, everything else. That's what remains.
Well, and I wanted to let you know the state of Georgia had 0 confirmed cases of corona. And oh my gosh, there are 2 Canadian geese over me right now.
Mine were outside honking just a little while ago. They show up every day. At least a couple times. In the wind. Now, yesterday I walked down the Wildcat, and there they were. They were in the Wildcat, and I thought they got a nest right down here. That's cool. I would love to see them nest down there because they are at least in part domesticated. They would not be fearful of bringing their goslings up here, and I would feed them, and they would come back next year, the same as their mom and dad. Is my hope. Now, understand that both of these geese, I don't want to give this away, but I will. I had a Wheater goose that I had for 7 years, and that's how I got the Canadian geese. I went down when it was going to flood, took the eggs out of a local nest before it was, because about every other year they get their nest wiped out because of the flood. And I knew it was going to flood. So I went down, I got the eggs, swapped them with the ones that the domestic goose was sitting on, which were not fertile. But these right here were only, I mean, the way that I was looking at it, because it starts like right there, probably right around springtime, because they hatch usually like right at the last week of April to the very first part of May, the Canadian goose eggs. So I went down and got them, and I think that was in the 3rd week of April. Now, this is over a couple different years. But the female was the one I got from the first year, and the second one I got from over near Burlington. So it was 2 different mothers and fathers. So if they do hook up, all's good. There is no inbreeding where you get like I don't even know what you would call that, like some kind of inbred Canadian goose, But anyway, they should have good babies, and she should bring them up here because she's one that like was very much, at least in part, imprinted on humans. I mean, when they landed in the yard and I went out there and I'm like, geese, because I knew it was them, man. She put her head down, and started walking. I'm like, hell yeah. And I was waiting for the others to show up because the Wheater goose that I had for 7 years, she couldn't fly. Or she could fly. It was only for maybe about 50 yards or so. And, they're just not made. They're more of a meat bird. But the Canadian geese, man, they knew when it was time to fly. And in that one where me and Greeno was out there, where he was like in training, for the bacon fest for eating all that, I told him, I says, all right, man, act like you're working out. I said, we'll get all the geese up here at the top of the hill. Then we'll take off running, right? And because I had the camera set up, I said, run right down between the cameras, man, and they'll just follow like they're flying right behind you. Worked out perfect, man. And people says, man, how'd you guys get them to do that? They was just at that time where they was ready to fly. And they knew that if you was running, and the only bad thing was, I mean, we couldn't keep running, is so they would have just stayed right with us like that. But, once that they know that there is north, there is south, they know the photosphere when the days start getting shorter. They know all of that, man, and they know it's time to travel. And I found that out, man, on the 2nd year. The first year, it was, I think we had 3. And then the year after that, I think 5 out of the 6 hatched. Now, some of them got taken out as goslings because, man, let me tell you, everything out there will eat a gosling. Gosling's probably got to be one of the most delicious things on earth, the way I'm looking at it. Anyway, what medicine did they use against the flu back then? I mean, I'm still wondering about that. And Charlie has the same question. I mean, they didn't have anything antiviral, and I am kind of curious as to what that they had. I'm
going to look it up because I think it was the beginning of the antivirals, and I could be wrong. I'm going to take a minute and get the medication. So I'll call you back in just a few. All right. But in the meantime, I wanted to tell you that Georgia, because I'm watching something out there, had 0 cases 5 days ago. Then they went to 22, and this morning they have 60 confirmed cases. Now, the state has declared an emergency, and they are taking it to the degree that state offices, and that includes the court system, can determine their own closures within their own community. And that's probably a good thing that's starting to happen, because there's nobody that knows better than what's going on.
Not my geese.
Than the local people that are handling it, and the hospitals if they're getting cases of it. And I believe one 80-year-old has passed away in Georgia. Colorado, however, has more cases, and I think they're up over 100 now.
Well, you know,
confirmed.
I think that is because of the colder weather in Colorado.
It could be. Do you have grass starting to grow yet?
No, but it's right around the corner. I mean, after, you know what, last night we got snow, which was completely unexpected. I went to bed last night. It seemed rather warm, like spring was en route. Get up this morning, look out the window, and we got like this much snow. I was like, what? Didn't see that happening. But there it was, you know, snowing all day long.
Well, yesterday morning it snowed pretty well here, and then it turned out to be a beautiful afternoon.
Yeah, well, we didn't get that either.
Today, there's a lot less traffic. I haven't checked out the Walmart parking lot. I'm not stupid enough to go today.
You know what? Okay, give me a call back when you get that, because I did want to touch upon Greeno real quick.
Okay,
all right.
I'll call you back as soon as I have it.
All righty. I'll talk to you then.
All right, thank you.
Bye. I did want to talk about Greeno for a minute, because as most people know, he is in jail. And we are trying everything that we can to get him out. Now, I have been in touch with Icons, and we have set up a really nice affidavit for him that should result in his release. Now, I want to be quite clear that most anything, not all, but I don't know what all, because I don't go look into that shit, that has been said is really wrong. The fact is, law enforcement woke him up. Now, he was not under arrest, but they did handcuff him because they would send him to a hospital for analysis. Now, that's where everything broke out right there, was at the hospital, because I think he was refusing treatment. And then they got him with battery because they said he shoved the security guard, who then tackled him and held him down till law enforcement could arrive with his knee like placed squarely in his back with all of his weight. You know how they like to tackle and do that shit to you? That's what they did to him. Now, I'm pretty sure that if everything stands the way that I read it in the charges, he was probably pretty freaking pissed. And that may have led to a lot of it. But the thing is look, a person's got freedom of speech. A person in this country has freedom of speech. Words cannot hurt you. I can say anything to anyone, and guess what? That person will not be hurt by my words. My actions may be if I go do them, but not my words. But intimidation, you know what that is? That's a code. That's a statute. It's not a law. There is no law that says that you can't say anything. But they can hit you with the code and statute. And if you walk in and say, yes, Your Honor, that is my true and correct name, they got you. They got you right there. Remember that shit. Never go in and say, yes, that's my true and correct name. I don't give a shit how it's spelled. It's spelled exactly like your name. But guess what? It's in all capital letters. That's why you're a corporation and you're not a human. And they got to see you as a human. That's why you must accept representation, be it by a lawyer or you represent yourself. Yeah, I'm going to come in and act like me. Bullshit. I will be here the next time, being a human breathing entity, to be here. No, I need no representation. Well, you must accept representation. Well, guess what? I do not consent, and nor will I take your representation. Have a nice day. Question their jurisdiction, because if you are in there on a crime and it is not under common law, and it never will be in America, despite the Constitution saying that under criminal charges, a person must be tried under common law jurisdiction or a jurisdiction in harmony with common law. Well, statutory jurisdiction, that's what they do to corporations, not humans. If you go in and you claim that you are a human and that you are not a slave under any state, or you are not a state of citizen, but you are a free living human being, they can't do shit. So hopefully we can get him out of there and get him to a safe place where he will not get that. Because if you're stuck in a jail, guess what? In due time, it's going to be hitting the jails, and they got to quarantine. The last place that anybody needs to be is in jail. Know that shit. Yo.
Boy, did I blow that. I did a rod history all to HELL. In 1918, it was the flu.
Yeah.
And a lot of people died. In 1925, if you open the email that I just sent you, the disease was diphtheria. And it was the diphtheria serum that they raced to Nome with.
I see.
It was not the flu. I apologize.
No problem.
So sorry to each and every person that I misled, because I had it wrong.
No. Yeah, I mean, I understand. You know what? That happens quite often. I've done the same, believe you me.
But if I just sent you a Wikipedia,
I got it.
A little more concise.
Okay. Well, I'm not going to read this. This is a book, literally. But let me get down to the part. Which part should I be reading here?
The history and call for help.
Let me see where that is. Outbreak and call for help?
Outbreak and call for help. I apologize.
In the winter of 1924 to 1925, Curtis Welsh was the only doctor in Nome, a town of fewer than 2,000 people and the surrounding communities. He was supported by 4 nurses at the 25-bed Maynard Columbus Hospital several months earlier, where Welch had placed an order for more diphtheria antitoxins after discovering the hospital's entire batch had expired. However, the replacement shipment did not arrive before the port was closed by ice for the winter, and more could not be shipped in to Nome until spring. In December 1924, several days after the last shipment left the port, Welch treated a few children for what he first diagnosed as sore throats or tonsillitis, initially dismissing diphtheria as it is extremely contagious. He would have expected to see more symptoms in family members or other cases around town instead of a few isolated cases. In the next few weeks, as the number of tonsillitis cases grew and 4 children died, whom Welch had not been able to autopsy, he became increasingly concerned about diphtheria. By mid-January 1925, Welch officially diagnosed the first case of diphtheria in a 3-year-old boy who died only 2 weeks after first becoming ill. The following day, when 7-year-old girl presented the same telltale symptoms of diphtheria, Welch attempted to administer some of the expired antitoxins to see if it might still have any effect, but the girl died a few hours later. Realizing that an epidemic was imminent, the same evening, Welch called Mayor George Maynard to arrange an emergency town council meeting. The council immediately implemented a quarantine the following day on January 22, 1925. Welch sent radio telegrams to all major towns in Alaska, alerting them of a public health risk, and he also sent one to U.S. Public Health Service in Washington, D.C., asking for assistance. His message to the Public Health Service said, "An epidemic of diphtheria is almost inevitable here. Stop. I am in urgent need of 1 million units of diphtherium antitoxin. Stop. Mail is only form of transportation. Stop. I have made applications to Commissioner of Health of the territories for antitoxin already. Stop. There are already 3,000 white natives in the district. Despite the quarantine, there were over 20 confirmed cases of diphtheria and at least 50 more at risk by the end of January without antitoxin. It was expected that in the surrounding regions, populations of around 10,000 people, the mortality rate could be close to 100%. A previous influenza pandemic of the so-called Spanish flu had hit the area in 1918 and 1919 and wiped out about 50% of the native population of Nome and 8% of the native population of Alaska. More than 1,000 people died in northwest Alaska and doubled that across the state. The majority were Alaska natives who did not have resistance to either disease. Stop. Hello?
Yeah, and what's amazing to me is, I guess the first paragraph.
Go ahead. Keep talking. I'll be right back.
If you click on that, we'll explain how they got the diphtheria serum to Nome in 5.5 days over, I think it was about 1,300 miles with dog teams. That's the only way that they could get it up there because the port was closed due to ice. Didn't have airplanes that would go up there. And it was a very isolated area in Alaska.
So what you're saying is dogs saved Alaska?
Yeah, a dog named Balto and I think Tobo. Tobo went the longest, and he went 263 miles, I think. Balto had more personality, and he only led his team 55 miles, but it was 55 tough miles, and he was the dog that everybody commemorates now, and his statue is in Washington, D.C., in the state, or in the nation's capital. Because this was a feat. If you stop and think about it, that's 200 plus miles a day.
Yeah.
With just dogs running. And they had to be fed, and they carried all that with them. And the point is, again, do what you got to do, get through it, and get out the other side.
You know,
Go ahead. No, there was a problem because a lot of the native people, and it's similar to other island nations and isolated tribes and ethnic groups. They're isolated, and they don't have these diseases.
Yes,
that we've brought in.
Very correct. And, you know, a lot of the same thing applied to Native Americans when, you know, like smallpox, anything like that, because they didn't have any, or their immunity was very lowered to that, you know, to people from Europe who had already had that over the course of a great deal of time. And a lot of that, especially smallpox, once that, you know, got into the Native American communities, it wiped out a lot of people. I mean, because they were very susceptible, and it spread, and it just went through, and, you know, millions actually died from that. I mean, from different diseases. And some of it was actually transmitted purposely to them. And in many cases.
No, and that's true. They wanted to see what would happen, and it was disastrous to those small populations. And I know it's difficult for people to understand how big Alaska is, but if you superimpose it over the lower 48 with the Aleutian chain and southeast Alaska, it goes darn near from the Pacific to the Atlantic.
Yeah, it actually, in area of size of land, it is the largest state by a long shot.
Now, our borough up there, which is the equivalent of our county, was as big as the state of Rhode Island.
Yeah, but man, Kokomo is the size of Rhode Island, you know?
Population or area?
No, man. I'm just making fun, but Rhode Island's a little bitty place, man. It's just a little spot, man. Rhode Island just isn't very big, man. There's cities bigger than Rhode Island.
That's true, but our county, and I think our county has a population, well, in 1980, it was about 30,000. So is that comparable to Kokomo?
30,000?
Yeah.
No, I think that Kokomo would be smaller than that. Howard County, I'm sure we got over 30,000, no problem, but
it's a vast area. When I would go up to my back doctor, and I didn't have one in the community where I lived, it was a 160-mile drive from my back door to the doctor's office through the mountains, and that included snow, the worst weather possible during the wintertime. But once a month, I'd drive up and drive back. And that's how we have always lived. But the Nome area is kind of unique because it's so isolated and people didn't deal with those diseases. They just didn't get sick.
Yeah.
And even now, if someone in the villages get cancer, they walk out and pick the cancer plant. And they feed this particular flowering plant to the person who has cancer. And in addition to modern medicine now, but it's still a lot of the homemade folklore cures. Whether they're effective or not, I can't say on this forum because I don't know. But it's just awesome that, you know, people pulled together and did what they had to do and got through it. And yes, there were deaths. But this is not unlike anything else we've ever had.
Cindy M says that the Kokomo population in 2017 was pretty much 58,000. I didn't think it was that big. Apparently I'm wrong because I was thinking that it was less than that.
Oh no!
And I'm from there.
In one day.
In fact, my mailing address is Kokomo.
Maybe you're counted in that.
No, I can tell you that I am not counted in that.
Okay. Are there little suburbs of Kokomo?
No, it's a Kokomo mailing address, but the thing is like when the census taker shows up, I don't answer the door. I knew who he was, man. I could tell when he got out going door to door with his book, and I'm all like, yeah, we ain't here, man. Look, Obama was in office, man. I don't know what they want with that information, but one thing I don't want is anybody to know, government-wise, to know where I live at. I don't trust the government. Believe me, the government, they're the bad guys every single time. They're never the good guys. They're always bad. Really, really, really bad. Who took all your rights away? It was the government. Know that. Well, excuse me. It wasn't the government. It was the people in the government. That's how it should correctly be stated.
Now, how many cases of confirmed corona do you have in Indiana?
Well, yesterday I think it was 12. 12 people that had tested positive, but again, man, it's, you know what? I don't trust the testing. I really don't. I mean, it's not like they went and tested everybody in Indiana and said 12 people have it. If 12 people have it and they tested positive for it, literally tested positive for corona, then more than that have it. I'll guarantee you that. I think it's pretty easy to spread, but I just don't think that the symptoms amount to much. In fact, what I read today was that people in their 50s, and I think it was 2% or maybe even 1%, would die if they contracted corona. but they said that that doubled for each decade thereafter. So if you was in your 60s, 2% would die. If you was in your 70s, 4% die, 8 in your 80s. So it really isn't that bad. And again, I mean, I take that right back to the flu. I think that the flu is just as serious, if not more serious, as far as killing people. I could be wrong, and I don't want to spread misinformation, but take it for what it's worth. That's just the way that I'm kind of looking at it myself.
Well, and what's alarming is there are 4 different blood pressure medications now that they put on the list and said, and one causes cancer already, and I take that one. And it was just crazy. Let me stop and explain. The particular blood pressure medicine that I'm on is a combination of a couple of things. It does different things, but it does bring my blood pressure down. And apparently it coats the inside of the lungs with some protein that reduces your blood pressure. That's how it acts. It acts in your lungs. And when you have that already, it's my understanding from what I read in the last few days, and people check this out before you take it for gospel, that if you have that particular protein in your lungs doing a job on your blood pressure, then it makes you more susceptible and you will get sicker.
Right.
If you take that medication. Now, a little side story. About 2 years ago, there was a blood pressure medication that came out and said it's got carcinogens in it. And a portion of the medication that I take is one of the medications that they identified as a carcinogen. So when I was living over in Las Vegas, down to the pharmacist I go, and I said, "Is this blood pressure medication one of the ones I have to worry about?" "No." So back home I go, and I just keep taking one pill every morning, and I'm happy. The next thing I know, a couple days later, I get a text from my pharmacy that says, "Your medication has been recalled. It is part of the carcinogenic high blood pressure medication that we've just had to pull off the shelves. Would you please come in and talk to us?" Well, I had been in there. And they said, "No, it wasn't." So back in I went with my little bottle of pills. And actually, it's a big bottle because they're big pills. And I go, "Well, it's one of the medications, Miss Cavalier, that we don't know yet." And so I've been taking it all along for 2 more years. And I'm just waiting to get the next text from Walgreens that says, "Hey, your medication's been recalled. It was part of a group from 2 years ago, and you can't take it anymore." And that's kind of frustrating. And I think some of what we're running into now is just mistakes upon mistakes upon mistakes, and getting out some questionable information. And people have to consider that the first wave of information may not be exactly right because they don't know. And as we get caught up in this and understand how it travels and how one person infects another, then perhaps some of that will become more clear. But just use a lot of common sense.
You know, I wanted to answer Janice here. She said, "So afraid if I get it that I can give it to my mom, who is 80 years old." And I think that comes down to one of those things that if your mom does need anything, you know, it should be sprayed, sanitized, left on the front door, but don't give away to transmit it. You see where I'm at? But be very, you know, sure that you're not going to transmit it. And there's only X amount that we really know about corona right now. And to me, it don't look all that bad, but at the same time, to older people, it can be. And I think that it's almost the exact opposite, although not quite, not in the manner that it kills. But the 2018 flu, which struck people down that were young, this is really kind of more aimed at people that are older. So you don't want to be transmitting it to people that are older. In fact, you don't want to get it and transmit it anyway. But aside to the point, you don't want to be transmitting this because we don't know what the origins are. We don't know if it is a bioweapon. We don't know if it's meant to increase. We don't know if it's meant to mutate into something stronger. We don't know. In fact, God forbid, man, it would come back next year and be stronger. You see where I'm at, like the flu. Like it would just come back every year, just like the flu would, but getting stronger each time. You know, these are things we don't know. And if you look at what it's doing right now to our economy, to our lives, to all the shutdowns, they're treating it like it's viral cancer. So, you know, be leery. Don't try to, don't try. But I mean, what I mean is like take care of yourself. Try to keep yourself away from it as best as possible. Do what you got to do, and don't do anything that could pass that along to an older person or anybody else for that matter.
You know, Kat, I've talked to you about my adopted grandfather up in Alaska, and he was, his health was a little bit fragile at one point when he was getting older, and I would say he was at that point in his mid-70s. And my kid had gotten, they had chicken pox, and then they had the flu, and it was wintertime, and things like that happened in Alaska. And the doctor said, really be careful with any older people because you don't want to give them this. And so we worked out a system that when he needed something and I was going to wherever, the store or whatever, I would slip a pair of latex gloves on and take his groceries out of my trunk, and I would put them in a box, and I would close the box with latex gloves. So I wasn't transmitting any germs to what he needed to pick up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And then I would take it to the door, and what he would do is open up one of the smaller, the white garbage bags, and he would put it over the box, bring it in the house, take the garbage bag off, and take out whatever he needed out of that box. So there was at least 3 or 4 steps in there that we were not transmitting hand to germ to box to germ to bag to germ. We broke that up. And the chances of transmitting anything was almost nil. He didn't get anything that winter, but it was my way of taking care of him and ensuring that he wasn't going to get the flu while he was just simply grocery shopping.
Yeah, exactly. You don't know who goes there. And it's just like me right now. Normally I go to the Dollar General, but right now I'm staying my distance from it. They got the automatic doors, but again, I don't know where this virus is. Not everybody's being tested. So we don't know the full amount of people that got it, that could be carrying it, that could transmit it. I'm not really worried about catching it right now. I'm not. I'm literally not. If I was to get it right now, it's not that I'd be doing backflips, but I'd say, hey, done had it, so I could just go about my merry way, not really being too concerned over it anymore. And I'm not really too concerned about it, but I think the media, Google, if you look anywhere, man, the top words you are going to see is coronavirus, do these things to stop it. Well, okay, that's good because they do want to halt it. At least that's what the impression that they're giving people. And I hope that is what they're doing. And I hope that this isn't some kind of hoax. Now, I want to bring up a guy's name, and I watch his channel, and I've watched a lot of his videos, and I'm just passing it out there. I think for the most part, the guy makes a lot of good sense. It would be on you individually as to what it is that you like and watch. The name of his channel, and it's all one word. It's A Texas Cash, and then it's got 3 numbers like 3510 or something like that. And anyway, he starts each one with, this is Jeff from stopthepirates.com. It's .blogstop.com. But that guy's usually got good information. Now, you go back last Thursday, he was talking like it was the end of the world. You know, I mean, like literally. He goes, it could be a hoax, but the way that they're treating it and the way they're reacting, you know, it's going to cause like a real havoc in the economy. That's what I was looking at last Friday as, hey, this could be Black Friday the 13th. You know, the day before that, it went down the largest ever, like 2,000 and some point drop in the Dow. And I didn't know what to expect the next day. But when I got up and seen the, you know, when it first got up there and I woke up and was looking at it, I think it was in the upper 600s. And I was like, okay, good. It's green. You know, this means that everything isn't melting today and that, you know, we won't be here come Monday. But anyway, if you want to go check his channel out, I mean, he isn't like Icons. I don't think he's got near the, and I don't really just say that like Icons is entertaining, but he does throw humor into what he says. And I really love watching him in these videos because he thinks like a person should think, you know, and I always point that out to him, that that's why I got so involved with his channel, you know. When I was watching Icons, I'm like, okay, I got to get this guy to know editing, you know, man, like send me a video, man, let me edit, man, let me do this because, man, we could really make his channel jump. And the other day, man, I told him, I says, what you need to do is go live on StreamYard. Well, why? I says, because then you can answer questions immediately when they pop up. I said, people love that, man. He's got over 27,000 subs. And I said, that's the kind of thing you should be focused on, because then you could really reach out and get people the information that they want. And, you know, hopefully in due time, once me and him set up and I run him through it on StreamYard, hopefully that will take effect, because I want to see Icons go live. I think that that's his next step right there. I think he could reach a lot more people by doing it in that manner. But check out Jeff, and, you know, his website is all one word, blogspot.com. But he's also got a channel on YouTube, and it's called A Texas Cash, all one word, A Texas Cash. You put that in, it'll pull him up. He's had that channel going for over 10 years. Think about that. That's from like 2010. I think that like YouTube was pretty much new at that point. Go ahead.
Well, it's amazing. And you know, if people run out of hand sanitizer, or nobody's going to run out of toilet paper, I don't think.
Oh, good Lord, man. Don't even go there. You know what? I'm afraid to show a roll of toilet paper. Man, my friend that I play chess with about every night last night, he's like, man, you got toilet paper? Because I only got one roll and the Dollar General sold out. And I'm like, no. I said, look, man, the toilet paper I have, I wouldn't give less than a Porsche for it. Unless you got that, no. I said, so don't even discuss swapping anything, or, you know, I said, you ain't got nothing I want, man. Well, wait, man, he does have a 222.
I have an idea for a moneymaker if anybody's listening that wants to do it. An anonymous, I don't even know if I can say it, Craigslist ad with maybe your favorite YouTuber's telephone number on it.
Dude, what? Yeah, you know what? People start calling me for newspaper, man, for a toilet paper. Yeah, man, I'm just turning the ringer off. Know that right now. So, man, I have no toilet paper. People, I lied. Didn't you know, man? Michael Cash, stretch truth.
$75 a roll.
$75 a roll. Okay, you know what? At $75 a roll plus shipping, man, I will send it to you. There it is. And then, and look, they're pretty big rolls too, man. You see? Actually, because I use these to wipe my glasses with. I don't want anybody to be like being nasty. Actually, I got another one right here for the same.
So if there are any trolls out there listening, do not list Michael Cat's phone number on Craigslist.
Okay, now you're causing the panic. Now you're causing a problem. Now you're trolling, you see. Now you're going to hit me with a bunch of people wanting toilet paper. I'm like, people, it's a lie. There was only the one roll.
Well, just remember, I'm learning to cook French. So if I get up Indiana way, I owe you a French dinner if anybody posts that on Craigslist.
Okay, well, don't post it on Craigslist, people. Don't, man. Please don't.
Take it right to Facebook Marketplace.
Yeah. You know what? My name's copyrighted, y'all. Just want you to know that right now. You don't want any infringements there on.
No, just add an EN to the last name.
An EN?
An E. Just an E to make the name different. Then you're not infringing on anybody's copyright. You would think that I had this planned, but I didn't. It came right out of my
backside.
That's awful.
Thank you. No, that's all I had.
I do apologize. If you didn't put your phone number out there, it just wouldn't have been possible to suggest that to anybody.
Well, you know what? The reason that I have my number up there is because at any time that somebody wants information or has any question on the Delphi case, they can call me. And, you know,
I know that.
Well, no, I was telling everybody that, you know, I mean, if you do, because this right here is not my normal video. This is like, I don't have very many people here for that reason. But, you know, I did want to pass along the fact that there does seem to be mutations. But anytime that you have a virus, the virus will mutate. It always happens like that. A virus will always mutate. Now, again, man, they're talking about a vaccine. And then if you use a vaccine, then that can cause it to mutate. But at the same time, there's already like 2 strains that they're talking about, the L and the S type. So, you know, we'll see. We'll see how this starts to pan out. And hopefully, and the way that Icons is talking about it, that probably as the weather warms up, man, they're going to look back at this and it'll be done with. It'll be over and everything will be clear. Everything will be good. We can go on about our lives. But again, I don't think that that's the way the globalists operate. I really don't. Whenever they make a deal out of something like this, like it's the walking death virus or something, then you got to be concerned because we don't really know the true story behind this. And until we do, be very leery about anything that where you could contract it, carry it, pass it along, anything like that. Stay as clear of it as you can. Do what they say. Make sure your hands are washed. Wipe stuff down with alcohol. Yeah, even the sanitary wipes. When I hear about that, they said don't just wipe something and think it's all gone. It's got to be wet with that stuff. So
yeah, it's got to be 60% alcohol. And I'm not sure, as an old-fashioned lady, why bleach doesn't work.
Well, nobody wants to wipe their hands with straight bleach. I mean, if you see my point, you don't want to apply straight bleach to your skin, but you could dilute bleach, and it would work the same as with alcohol. In fact, it does.
Always, let's write a disclaimer right now. We don't know for sure.
No. I can say that.
You can say that?
Yeah, bleach kills viruses.
Well, bleach kills just about everything. It'll kill your grass if you pour it on it.
Yeah, damn straight. But what I'm saying is I don't think, and this is what I'm not trying to pass along, is don't put straight bleach on your skin. But I think that you could probably, and please look this up, you know, you could probably dilute it by X amount and use that as a wipe, because that's the same thing with like Clorox wipes. Same identical. You see where I'm at?
Yep.
Because bleach will kill a virus.
Keep your subscribers healthy.
Well, I want everybody to be healthy. You know, ain't just my
Exactly.
subscribers, but, you know, I mean, everybody should be healthy. I just don't want this being misled by the media. I don't want to be a doomsday sayer, because I don't think it is that. But I want everybody out there to use the precaution and, yeah, stop the pirates. There it is.
All right. Well, Michael, I will let you go, and
Okay.
everybody else and you just stay home, cuddle up with your dogs, your cats, your
That's
pets,
what I do.
kids, and stay safe.
I know of no canine viruses that are going to attack him, and if they tried, so they'd have to go through me anyway.
Exactly. I can see you out on your front porch,
Boxing the
punching
virus.
out the viruses.
Get back, man. You ain't getting my puppy.
All right. You take care.
All right. You have a nice evening. Thanks for calling.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, so that's going to wrap that up. And I thank everybody for viewing. I did want to pass that along that there may be mutations, but again, I think that the warmer weather will kill it. Use all precautions that are necessary to keep yourself virus free. Do your best not to pass this along, even if you have not contracted or tested positive. Don't go to people where you can pass that along. Make sure that your hands are sprayed, clean, keep them washed. And I thank everybody for being here, all the mods, my caller is in, everybody. So thank you all, and I will see you probably next Tuesday. Peace.